question that I know a number of VTubers have. Yeah. And Giga, you might not want to be the one to ask this question, or you might, but I will go ahead and ask the question that I know many VTubers have and then answer it because I know it's one that's on many VTubers' mind. Is the whole question about our enforcement guidelines,
and,
for Rima, the enforcement guidelines, the attire guidelines, and in particular the comparison to VRChat. Okay.
Yes, I was going to ask.
Okay, good. Yeah, good. Well, why you can feel free to ask. Why don't you go ahead and ask? But I wanted to go ahead and ask the way you would ask it then.
Of course, I think. I mean, I was definitely going to say it nicely because I think a lot of it comes from just confusion, people not being sure what the guidelines are, who they apply to. Maybe they're looking for more clarity. Some people are just complaining. Some people are more validly complaining. You know, there's a lot of different ranges on that. But overall, a lot of VTubers are confused about the outfit policy. They'll think maybe it means one thing, and then they get their model made, which, you know, takes like 6 months to a year sometimes. And then they debut it that day, and then they're told that's not allowed actually, right? So there's a lot of uncertainty on what is.
I find that she words her questions really well. I wonder if the community submitted some questions for her to ask, because later on she does like ask some questions.
Isn't allowed, and then why, like you said, why can a VRChat avatar look a certain way, but then this person who's using a model that they also use in VRChat not allowed to stream a video game with that or chatting, that sort of thing?
Yeah. First, let me, and I think this is a good question. In fact, some of this I'll also throw out there is because you highlight one of the problems that exist here that doesn't happen in the real world that I'd love for us to find a better solution for. So first of all, when we published the enforcement guidelines, there was no change to our policy. In fact, part of what we were trying to do was sometimes people have to implicitly figure out what the policy is by talking to people that have endorsements. And what we were trying to do was to be clear about how we were, and we didn't change how we were enforcing it all around then. But of course, as we do it, that also then brings more attention to something that was already happening in terms of enforcements. Okay, but we didn't change anything with the enforcement guidelines. Now, our general policy is that we apply the same attire guidelines to a VTuber as we do to a person in terms of the clothing that they have on their body, in terms of covering their hips and everything else. And now I'm not going to go into talking through the nuances of the attire policy for humans because, first of all, I'm not the expert on all the nuances of enforcing the attire policy on humans. It's also something that is nuanced, and you have to.
Wait, do you guys know is Giga like one of this VTuber ambassador, or is she a Twitch ambassador?
Be very careful on, and we've tried to communicate what is our attire policy.
Wait, Gunrun was a founding member of Twitch? I actually wasn't aware of that.
Policy for humans. And so the same thing applies to VTubers. Now, the big question is, well, wait, why is that when you don't have the same policy with VRChat? And then, in fact, shouldn't VTubing just be like VRChat? And I understand why VTubers avoid that. Seems unfair. They can have that, you know, avatar in VRChat, but I can't have it as I'm a VTuber. The reason for the difference is, and you highlighted earlier about how VTubers do everything on our site. VRChat, if VRChat is a game and VRChat has a rating in the game, and when people go to VRChat, they have certain expectations about the type of content that they are going to be exposed to in terms of the avatars that they may see. Now, of course, VRChat is just an environment, and VRChat can all be lollipops and bubblegum and unicorns, or VRChat can be, you know, less attire for their avatars and all sorts of things. However, it is...
Yeah, one world can be full of lollipops and the other one can be full of dildos.
The fact that much of the, especially since when you're in VRChat, you have no idea who you might run into. It's certainly the case that as you go and watch somebody streaming in VRChat, you've learned a given expectation about what you might see in terms of VRChat. And we, of course, use the game ratings and other things to make sure that users are aware of that. That is not the case with a VTuber, because a VTuber can play Minecraft, right? A VTuber can do anything. And so there, when you have less attire, for some people, they might find that may not be what they are looking for when they are going into a Minecraft stream. And especially given we have people of all ages, it's not just an age thing, but it is the fact that we have people of all ages, not of all ages, of 13 and above.
Yeah, but they could be a titty streamer streaming Minecraft, no? She could have Minecraft like in 20% of her screen and her ass 80% of the stream. I don't, is it just, am I just not understanding his explanation, or is it just bullshit?
differently when somebody's under 18. But there's also lots of users of all sorts of ages that's like, no, that's just not what I want to be exposed to in terms of, I'll say less attire. And so that's the reason we kind of need to treat VTubing different than VRChat because of the very nature of it. And interestingly in this, like, I think these lines are going to continue to blur where more and more in gaming, you're going to have control over your avatar in gaming. Okay. And you'll have more and more expressibility. In GTA 6, Lord knows what you'll be able to do in your avatar in
it's
GTA 6.
It's going to question those things. And we might have to continue to adapt our policy to see how things go. But that is where we're currently standing with it, which is like your VR model, we are comparing to a person because like a person, which you are, you can change games, you can change categories, you can do all these different things. But when you're in a game, that's a game model. So we consider them separate.
So can I ask two follow-up questions on that? Because I get what you're saying, Dan. Completely agree, right? Because at least when you're playing certain games, you have certain labeling and things, which I assume has a lot to do with advertisers and a lot of these other things, like just knowing, what's going on the platform. Let's say, now I don't do this, you can see I'm covered head to toe, but let's say I wanted to get an outfit that was more revealing. I know, for example, I can go into the pools, beaches, hot tubs category and show it off there. What if I wanted to just be like that all the time? Could I, in the future, maybe consider having some sort of label or content classification that lets me do that, so that let's say people want to filter that out and it's not fully adult content, for example, but I know the nature of this outfit is what it is and I want to just click a button and say I want to do anything and be in any category doing this, but I'm not trying to be shown to the minors that might be on the site. Would there be a way to kind of meet in the middle there?
I think so. By the way, you talked about the two different ways of doing this. One is labeling and the other is a category.
Yes.
Those have different pros and cons, and sometimes we do both, right? In other words, so for example, with the attire exception, right, for a human, you need to be in the hot tubs category, and that is applied. And now some people may not want to be in the hot tubs category, but they want to use the attire exception. And it's like, no, sorry, if you want to use the attire exception, you need to be in the hot tub category. And it's not just labeling it, okay? The tricky, by the way, and I think thinking of something like that is certainly something that...
But didn't Megalodon get banned in the bathtub category?
We can be thinking of and are and trying to figure out how to handle this. One of the challenges that we face is, as we do certain things, sometimes people find ways to exploit it to an extreme. And the best example is when we made the change in terms of drawing and allow to use the human figure. And then art suddenly became dominated with a certain amount of content. And I will tell you
that was Marina's fault and others, but it was a movement pioneered by Marina, and it's crazy that they sided here because of them. That's why we can't have nice things. They screwed up everybody.
The thing that in general doesn't work great on Twitch is what I will call hybrid categories that have two very different use cases. And ASMR is an example of one such category. That ASMR has like two very different communities that kind of use ASMR and an audience that is different, but it's all within one category. Okay. So that's my one hesitancy about just labeling, because then it can create certain categories might become where 50% of the content in that category is labeled. And now you create what is a hybrid category in terms of the audience that it's serving. Whereas hot tubs, it's better because if you take hot tubs versus ASMR, hot tubs is not as much of a hybrid category because there are not a lot of people that are just streaming in hot tubs just because they happen to be hanging out in a hot tub and that's what they're just doing for the day. But I think that idea
like
is
it's managing expectations, really, is what you're pointing out, right? Like, just that makes sense to me.
And
we also just have like a world of like gamers, and they're min-maxing understandably what we put out there because they are looking for ways to still express themselves but stay within our terms of service. I get that. Generally what we want to try to avoid though is having such specificity in our rules that people are looking for ways to circumvent them, as opposed to what we really want, which is make sure that when you are expressing what you want to do, that your audience knows what they're in for. Don't tell me that you're Sailor Moon when you're gushing over magical girls.
What does she mean by that? I saw this part the other day and I was like, I don't get it, what she's trying to mean by the Sailor Moon thing. It's an anime? Is it like a not safe for work anime? And it's like, I mean, I get that they're making the rules like subjective enough so people can't circumvent them, because it's kind of like when we made our Discord rules. You want to keep a loophole because each transgression can be different. You want to keep a loophole where the mods or the staff can be like, well, no, my decision is final here, because at the end of the day, some stuff is subjective, but at the same time, it is a tough line to thread. But at the same time, that means that their staff is very subjective. I think head of community played a big role in the enforcement guidelines against VTubers. I don't like her attitude so far. I feel like for a head of community representative, she's not very likable so far.
We can tell.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And by the way, that
Gushing Over Magical Girls is an ecchi anime. Oh, that's why. No, I haven't seen Gushing Over Magical Girls. I know Sailor Moon.
that goes to, in general, whenever you have something that is sort of a little bit subjective in terms of the line, this is one thing that I see in chat a lot, thinking, oh, it's inconsistent. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, another way to talk about consistency, suppose I had a black piece of paper and a white piece of paper, and I asked 100 people, is it black?
Yeah, but I think the inconsistency is one problem. And then the rest of their problem is that their Twitch staff applies their own beliefs and political beliefs in their decision making. They should try to apply the rule as evenly and as objectively as possible. Like, even when we run our Discord, I know that everybody that I've chosen to moderate my Discord is acting in good faith when they're like, this person, you know, sometimes we keep tabs on people that are more like being annoying or being a hindrance to the community. And it's like, yeah, this person's annoying, let's keep an eye on them, but they haven't broken any rules yet, so we can't do anything about it. Like, the rules are there for a reason. They're kind of like your guideline.
Black or white? Everyone will give me the same answers. Now, suppose I had chartreuse versus pick another color that is very close to chartreuse that many people may not really fully have a model of, violet versus purple, right? Which are two different colors. To be honest, I can't tell you the difference between violet versus purple. And if I asked a bunch of people, is it violet or purple? That in fact, you'd have a lot of people that get it wrong. And that's because the difference between violet and purple is very small, okay? And especially as you...
Wait, isn't chartreuse like yellow? It's like shades of yellow-green, no? I don't think it's violet.
We're talking about these things in terms of attire, sexual content, that sort of thing. It can be very subjective. And so in fact, as people try to move up to the boundary to get something as purple as possible, but still be violet. Okay, let's assume for a second, purple's not allowed, but violet is. But they want to be as close to purple without being it. You're going to have a lot of people that are going to call it purple, and then you're going to have some purple stuff that the rater's going to call violet, because it is not clear. And so what then ends up happening is you can find examples. Look, here's this violet thing, and they said it was purple, but this person was purple and they said it was violet. Oh my gosh. Okay. And the answer is, that is the nature of this problem when you have highly subjective things, whereas in other areas...
Yeah, but it's not just about the subjective decision making, it's the arbitral distribution of the punishment too. Let's say a VTuber has a lewd outfit, they'll get banned for a month. If a titty streamer has a lewd outfit or like a face cam on the butt, they get a 1-day ban and then they move on.
It's not highly subjective. Frequently in terms of, you know, hate speech, it's pretty clear this person said this like horrendous thing.
Right.
And so I encourage people, if you're trying to get as close to the line without going over the line, and then sometimes you get caught for going over the line when technically you can say, but I wasn't over the line, and this person, I'm like, stop trying to live so close to the line. Okay. Now, you did highlight a problem that VTubing has that does not happen in people, is if somebody is figuring out their attire and they find out because they get a warning about their attire, well, they put on a different top tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's easy. Okay. For VTubers, since it takes time to spend to get your model and get the attire for your model and all that, you know, it's like, well, shoot, I just spent a fair amount of money on this. Okay. And I wish I would have known this in advance. I wouldn't have spent the money. I would love if we had some way to...
Yeah, but that makes even less sense. So why are they punished harder? Are we giving them longer bans so they have time to commission like a new outfit? I mean, there'd be ways. Like if you get a warning for your attire on VTuber, there's ways for you to cover it up. You can just put a square box on it for the next day. You just put something, just a layer that covers up the cleavage. You can do quick fixes, especially with the new VTube Studio stuff they implemented. Overlays and stuff, yeah.
Kind of help with 2D models or other things, you know, kind of make an assessment, you know, and that may also be the type of thing that maybe VTubers help us with this, right? That in fact, you would get a group of VTubers that, you know, we work with, and then maybe something happens that in the VTuber Creator Club is VTubers, like you can almost like, it's borderline. And if it's borderline,
I was actually going to suggest that in the Creator Club. Yeah.
So we actually do that in our ambassador group, and we have VTubers that represent the ambassador selection. There's going to be more about this soon, but we really want to utilize our ambassadors as a way to help us get perspective from various creators. And ambassadors are meant to get sources because nobody's a monolith. So our ambassadors absolutely should be going to the creator clubs, getting broad understandings of like what those intricacies are, and then bringing that to us so that we can make better decisions for trust and safety. So we are absolutely doing that. I'm sorry. I wish I could like unveil this right now, but I can't. We're going to talk about it probably in like, I think.
So this is going to be a tough take, but I feel like Twitch wants people to work for them for free is what I'm hearing right now. They have the ambassadors, then they have the creator club. They're making the creator club constituted of several VTubers that they've opened up for everybody. They want the Twitch ambassadors to take time out of their day to go listen to the Creators Club feedback and then report it back to them. Just do it yourself. I don't know. Why does it need to be so many people working? It's like a pyramid scheme of people working for free under them. Yeah, the horse talks now. I fixed them.
I think in our open letter, we'll be talking about some of this stuff.
Good.
For sure.
All right. Well, Mary, you know what we should do?
We have to get to our Q&A, Dan.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So, Giga, this has been great.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming. And looking forward, we should do a stream together sometime, whether it's in my VTuber character or not. So maybe
we need VTuber Dan back. We need him back.
Yeah, I know. All right. Thanks, Giga.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'm a little bit disappointed because I thought it'd be more of a discussion where Giga not pressures them, but at least brings up some topics that VTubers are worried about, and she kind of did. But I think his response is what disappointed me more, because instead of being like, yeah, we hear you and we're looking into it, this is our conundrum, this is why we can't do this, but we do think it needs to change. But instead it was just like the opposite. It's like, instead he's basically doubling down and saying like, the rules are the rules, this is why it's like that, and that's it, that's all. I mean, I guess it's an interview and not a discussion. I thought it was going to be a discussion where like everything wasn't already set in stone. It feels, talking to him, that he's not going to change his mind and that everything's already set in stone. Yeah, I feel like he didn't say much. Right? Hey, you, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that bell button, and I'll see you in the next video.